And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome here.
Yo no estoy ahí.
We are here with Jake Cohen and Pati Jinich talking all about Shabbat and cooking and how the two connect to one another. And so we're super, super excited to be doing that. So I just want to welcome you officially on behalf of One Table. So nice to meet you. My name is Zoe. I'm on the One Table team. And we're so excited to have this conversation happening here tonight. Not only are we joined by Pati and Jake, but we also have a few teenagers here with us tonight from BBYO across the North American continent who are going to be here to ask us some additional questions and make this a really, really awesome conversation. So to get us started, I want to tell everyone a little bit about what One Table is. So One Table is a nonprofit on a mission to inspire and support people everywhere in slowing down, unplugging, and really developing a lifelong Shabbat practice. Here in this space tonight and always, we invite you to connect to each other, to ritual, to wellness, to Shabbat. And we really want to create a space where you can hold tradition in one hand and all of your beliefs and experiences and passions in the other. So a few ground rules about our Zoom situation here tonight. There is a chat box here, and we invite you to use it. Please introduce yourself, tell us where you are Zooming in from, and use it really as an opportunity to connect with fellow guests. There's an option to message panelists or guests and panelists. Message the guests. We really want to have a conversation that's going alongside the conversation on your screen here. As always, we'll also ask you to abide by our code of conduct. And simply put, that means be kind to each other. We are a community first and foremost, and we just ask that everyone respect everyone else who's here. And then also there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So you can use this to ask questions of Pati or Jake, and we will do our best to get to these throughout the conversation tonight. Lastly, today we're talking about Shabbat, but tomorrow it is Shabbat. And wherever you are in the world, Friday night comes and we have the opportunity to carve out a little bit of space and take a deep breath and welcome that moment together. And however you want to connect to that, we invite you to do that. That is what One Table is here to do. We are here to support the magic of Shabbat, whether that is virtually or in your home with your housemates, or if you want to just do Shabbat solo, we have ways to support you doing that as well. So keep hosting, keep doing Shabbat, keep carving out this space for you to really make Friday and Shabbat feel different than the rest of the week. And lastly, every week we have a few live programs where we are building community, we are doing amazing cooking workshops and having interesting conversations. So check out One Table Live for all of that good stuff. And from there, that's really it. And a very early Shabbat Shalom on our end. And I'm just gonna pass it over to Jake and Pati to show us how to cook and what's on their mind tonight. So thank you guys so much and take it away.
Thank you so much, Zoe. I'm so excited to be here tonight. This is our second kind of cook along, all focusing Shabbat, and who better to join us than Pati. Thank you so much for doing this, Pati. We just got connected finally over Passover, where we did this wonderful video in partnership with Tablet, where we're each cooking a little virtual Seder dish. What I would love to know first before we get into cooking is, how was your Passover?
It was great. It was really nice. We Zoomed with our family in Mexico City. So for one night, it was my husband's family, most of them in Mexico City, some in Toronto. And we all ate different things, but we did the same blessings at the same time. And then the next night, we Zoomed with my family, where the priority was we're all eating the same thing. Forget about the blessings. So it was like two very different things. Great food and just happy to be able to connect, you know?
Amazing. Well, speaking of great food, I'm very excited for this menu. What are we making tonight?
Okay, so tonight we're making one thing that my kids know. You guys, let me just say that my son Alan is helping me video these, and he can correct anything that I say. But I think that we eat Chipotle meatballs in this house once a week.
More.
More than once a week. Chipotle, people don't think about meatballs when they're thinking about Mexican food. Usually they will think Italian or even Mediterranean. But albóndigas, which is how meatballs translate to Spanish in Mexico, albóndigas is one of the most loved comfort foods. Albóndigas belongs to the category of guisados or homemade stews, and I love albóndigas or meatballs. The Mexican version of meatballs is more soupy than the Italian one, and some people call it a soup. So one of the most popular ways to make the albóndigas is with chipotle. And this version that I'm making tonight, I learned from a man named Julio, who has been cooking with me for like 12 years at the Mexican Cultural Institute. We are both from Mexico City, and we both had our ways of making chipotle meatballs, and he sold me on his. So this recipe is actually on it's in my first cookbook, and I call it Julio's Chipotle and Mint Meatballs. He taught me how to combine chipotle with mint, and he also uses a little bit of cooked rice as a thickener. So I know you asked a short question and I gave you a long answer.
I love it. The more the better. I mean, I could just listen to you talk all day.
So do you want me to get started with the sauce?
Yes, why don't we get started on the sauce and I'll start throwing questions out.
Awesome. So I thought that the first thing we could do is make the sauce for the meatballs, then make the meatballs, and then as they cook, I could show you how to make a version of my green rice. And I know we're all being very flexible and accommodating. I thought I had more fresh ripe tomatoes than I thought, and I don't, which is a great way to show you that if you don't have fresh ripe tomatoes, I only have 3, and this recipe calls for 2 pounds, you can use the crushed or the pureed tomatoes from a can or a jar. So this recipe calls for 2 pounds of ripe tomatoes, and I'm using, it doesn't matter if they're string tomatoes or chopped tomatoes or whole tomatoes, not endorsing any brand, really, any brand will do. And I'm just adding the canned puree in here, and it may sound like a lot of pureed or chopped tomatoes, but one thing about Mexican food, I mean, I think there's a lot of things about Mexican food, but one thing about Mexican food is we really love flavor. Like, we don't add a little bit of something. We add lots of things. I mean, lots of the things we like into the dishes. So here I have what would make like 5 pureed tomatoes. If you were using fresh tomatoes, and I like using Roma, which we call guaje in Mexico, and I like using the Roma or guaje because I love the word guaje, but also because the Roma tomatoes are great for soups or stews because they're so mushy and saucy. So you would boil those for about 10 minutes, and then you would throw them here in the blender with the core, with the skin, with the seeds, with everything. And then the next thing we're going to add, Mexican food is so easy, just throw everything in a blender. I'm going to add 2 very generous tablespoons of, so this is chipotles. Chipotles in adobo come in cans, in jars. Chipotles are, I'll tell you what chipotles are. Chipotles are these. Chipotles are a fresh jalapeno that has been ripened and picked not when green, but when red. And then it's left to dry and it turns into a chipotle. So a chipotle is a dried, ripened jalapeno. And then it's macerated in like an adobo made of a tomato sauce and other chiles and herbs and vinegar. And and sugar or brown sugar, and that's these. So it's these super transformed, and I think this is like a superhero of Mexican cooking because the chipotles are rustic and smoky and sweet and savory. They're like like the sriracha.
You can add it to anything to make anything taste good.
Yes.
Yeah. It's your all-purpose seasoning. Love it.
Exactly. And it's so you can get it with like whole chiles and then you would chop them, or this one I love because it comes already chopped. So
amazing.
For example, when we get them whole, I sometimes lose my patience because my youngest son will eat all of the sauce and leave just the whole chiles. But here he has no choice. He has to eat everything. So I'm adding 2, but you can play and see how much you want to add. And then I'm going to throw in here a piece of an onion. Here it goes. And then I'm going to add a couple of garlic cloves.
And you just blend it all up. I love it.
Just puree it. And before I puree it, I'm going to start heating my oil here. So, and this is a very typical step in Mexican cooking where we season or fry the sauce. But you want it to be really, really hot before you add the sauce. This is a really bad choice of wardrobe. It's gonna splatter, but you want the hot oil to shock the sauce. And then it cooks and it changes the flavor. So I'm gonna, and I need to add salt and pepper. And from here, you could play. You know, if you wanted to add some herbs, you could add some dry oregano. But I'm not doing that because we're using mint for like inside of the meatball. So I'm adding pepper. Just so you know, this is dinner for us.
I love it. I mean, I think that's my favorite part about all of these videos is it's not what you think everyone's going to want. It's what you actually would like to eat for dinner.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny because when we were choosing, you know, what to make with you guys, I thought, okay, since I have been trying to make so many different things during this pandemic time, I haven't made this in a while. Have I? Maybe.
Love it. Again, for everyone watching, questions, throw them in the Q&A and I will call them out to Patty. So about how much oil do you use to fry the sauce?
So like 1 to 2 tablespoons, and really you can use any oil you have at home. Here I use corn, but if you have safflower or if you have oil, olive oil, whatever, if you had schmaltz, you could add it too. It would make
Oh my God, that sounds delicious.
I should start making schmaltz. You know, my grandmother, who was Polish, and moved to Mexico City when she was a little girl, she used to have a jar of schmaltz in her refrigerator.
I love
and
it.
that is one thing I haven't done, but everything in her house tasted so good because of that, because she just spread everything with it.
I love it.
So I'm gonna throw this in here. You wanna wait for the oil to be really, really hot, and you see that the oil is hot when it trembles a little or when it shakes a little, and then it's gonna splash.
Yep. Oh, love that sound.
I love that sound too so much. And you want, so here what you want, you can see the splatter. So I'm using the lid as a shield. And what you want is for these tomato sauce to thicken and for the color to start to change. So you see the color now, it's like raw in spring and summer. You want these to turn into like autumn, fall, more brown color. So this will take like, 6 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna let it season and cook here for a little. Let me get these out of here. If there's anything that you want me to show you in my kitchen too, and kitchen tools or anything. But
I think we'll go through it all. Don't you worry.
Yeah, no, I know. But while these cooks, we can make the mixture of the meatballs, which is so easy. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So before we get into the meatballs, as you do it, I want to hear a little bit more about your family and the immigration to Mexico City, and what your kind of background is.
Of course. So I'll tell you, talking a little bit about my family, I was going to tell you about my husband's family because it was my father-in-law who brought me this molcajete from Mexico 20 years ago after we got married because I couldn't find a good Mexican molcajete, and he didn't know what he was getting into when he was visiting, and he was like, "What can I bring you?" And I was like, "A molcajete." Like I'm doing weights right now.
The heavy, yes.
Isn't it so cute? It has a little piggy.
I love it.
So Mexicans love pigs. And I know this is a problem in the Jewish culture, but this is how much we love pigs. I will show them our pigs.
Oh my God, I love it.
I mean, like pigs are part of Mexico's culture. Like you see them in pots and pans and paintings, and it's just, we like pigs. But anyway, so most molcajetes have the face and the shape of a pig, which I think is funny. But while I tell you about my family, I'm going to just mash. And if you don't have a molcajete, it's totally fine. You could just finely chop or mince just a bunch of fresh mint. And I'm going to put this in here with a couple of garlic cloves that I'm going to just coarsely just cut, put in here with some salt and pepper. If you don't have a molcajete, you can just finely chop. But the nice thing about the molcajete is that if you do have a molcajete, it's an excuse to use a cool tool. But also molcajetes have a memory, because I'll show them. Because the molcajete has volcanic rock and it's so pebbly and grainy, like it stores the flavors of the herbs and spices that you use. I mean, of course, it's perfectly clean, but it's like a griddle, like it has
like a seasoned cast iron.
Exactly. So I'm just mashing these, and so you could mince it, you could chop it, but by using the molcajete, it's just fun. And it, oh, Juju, come say hi. No, because it's a BBYO thing. Come over here. No, Alan, Juju, come over here.
I love it.
But tell them you're in BBYO. Come say hi.
I love that.
I'm inside.
Were you just at the convention?
The convention? No.
In Dallas?
And what? Oh no, I didn't go to that. Because it was mostly like high schoolers and older people.
Juju's a little baby.
I love it. I was just at, I spoke at I did,
Huh?
I did some demos at the conference in Dallas. It was so cool. Like all of these YO kids. Crazy. Shabbat was 4,000 kids.
Wow.
Oh my God. Jake, were you in BBYO before?
I was not when I was in high school, but it's because I'm very involved with the Schusterman Foundation with Reality. They are big with with BBYO as well, and that was kind of the intro into the big convention in Dallas this year. So naturally, it was a pleasure to go and do some cooking demos for the kids.
That's amazing. Come, let me show you something.
Yes.
I know, of course, everybody knows a mortar and pestle, right? But this is the difference, like when you mash, and this is called a tejolote in Spanish. When you mash it with the mortar and pestle, you get this really great like pesto texture, right?
Yeah.
So I'm adding that in here. And then of course that paste is gonna have a little bit of the memory of the flavors that my molcajete has had, Anyway, okay, but I'm telling you other things that you wanted to know.
About your family's immigration to Mexico.
You want to know about celebrations?
No, immigration, your family.
Oh, immigration, of course. I'm adding two eggs in here. And this is 2 pounds of ground turkey breast, but you could use chicken or you could use any kind of meat you want. Okay, so on my family's history, there's 2 sides. On my father's side, they came from Poland, from like tiny little shtetls. I think 1 town was called Sokobole and another town was called Losma. I'm adding a third of a cup of rice that I pre-cooked for like 6 minutes. And they came to Mexico really early, Jake, like at the time of the Mexican Revolution. We're talking about like the 1910s, like 1915, 1917. They were really, really, really young. And they were fleeing the pogroms.
Yeah.
And so that's on my father's side, very, very humble, from farmland, very, very unsophisticated, hardworking. Like my grandfather started selling blankets and underwear from door to door, you know?
Are they religious?
They were, yeah, I mean, they were not like so, well, I guess, yes.
They were pretty religious.
They were pretty religious. Yeah. I mean, in that, yeah. So they weren't like strictly kosher as far as keeping 2 sinks and 2 different like sets of cooking. They were very, very humble, you know? So maybe, but they respected everything. We did Shabbat every Friday. They did all of the holidays. They weren't strictly kosher, but they ate like kosher. Like they didn't mix. And the food my grandmother used to make was just very Eastern European, the big matzo balls, soup balls, and she made chont, and she made simes, and she used a lot of schmaltz. She used to make, she combined guacamole with egg salad, and we used to make taquitos out of that on Fridays.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
So you know what? We should do that. So
We should 100% do that.
I know. So it's like a Mexican guacamole version with like a Yiddish chopped egg salad. You mix that, and you put. She would have either the challah that she baked fresh. Let me rinse my hands. Or she would have just warm corn tortillas, and then she made gribenes. And so I'm gonna start adding the meatballs in here, okay?
Perfect.
But I'm also gonna add
What size? When you're doing these, like how big are your meatballs?
Okay, I'll show you. So I don't like to make them too big because I feel like I wanna eat a lot of the meatball with the sauce. And if you make them too big, they kind of dry in the middle, although the rice helps them.
What you just add inside?
Oh, I added about a cup of chicken broth. Okay. So I'm gonna make them. I'll show you. It's gonna be like 1.5 inches. I'll show you. And I'm soaking my hands with a little bit of water, so that that helps the meatballs. See, I didn't do such a good job mixing. That helps the meat. Sammy, come say hi. I'm making hi to all my boys. Okay?
I love it. I love it.
Sammy,
Hello.
What are you making?
I'm making something that we never eat at home. Meatballs.
Oh, we never eat meatballs. It's like every week. They're really good though.
It must be good then.
They're very good. They're very good.
So anyway, I'll show you the size. But what was I saying?
You're talking about gribenes.
Oh my God, yes. So this is like almost 2 inches, right? Like between 1.5 inches and 2 inches. And I wet my hands with water. So, because you don't want to eat meatballs that have like the marks of the fingers. Even though some people don't like or don't care, or some people do like it. Yeah. Then you have the sauce in there. But I like to use the palm of my hand to roll them and make them a little bit more sleek. And then I'm just dropping them in there. So, okay. So we're talking about the guacamole with the chopped egg salad. And then she would have that for Shabbat, like in her kitchen. And she would have the soft corn tortillas. And then she would have freshly made challah. And you'd get there after school. And then you chose if you wanted tortilla or challah. And you would spread the guacamole with the chopped egg salad. And then she had a big bowl of freshly made ribetes, which she made with a ton of onions. So and so that was like the taquito topping.
I love, I mean, it kind of, but if you really, it's kind of like the equivalent, the Jewish equivalent to like chicharron, or like adding that on top for like the textural component. We are definitely going to have to make guacamole egg salad and figure out what we're going to do. That's going to be fun.
You know what? It is exactly like the ribetes are the Yiddish version of chicharrones. And you know what I'm thinking? That it would make a spectacular sandwich.
On the challah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
do that when we cook. When we cook together, we'll do that.
100%.
So anyway, that was on my father's side. But on my mother's side, completely different story. So whether on my father's side, it was very humble, unsophisticated, but yummy food. And of course, she was a master at weaving in Mexican ingredients. Like, for example, she made chocolate babka with Mexican chocolate and Mexican canela. She got chipotle to her tzimes, but it was very simple food. My grandmother on my mother's side and her husband, my grandfather, they came to Mexico at a completely different time. They came also fleeing, but the Second World War. So my grandfather was from Czechoslovakia, from Slovakia, and my grandmother was from a city called Wolfsburg, which is, I think, like, it used to be the second biggest city in Austria. Wolfsburg.
It's like a little town in southern Austria.
She used to say that it was the second biggest city, but we all say those things when we're nostalgic. But it's like a small town now, yeah. We've looked at the map, right, Alan, to try to, Alan and I found my grandfather's town of Sohobole. Remember how
we found it. We found it though.
We found it.
Yeah.
Tell Jake.
We found it. We were looking through. It wasn't even the internet. It was just like these huge atlases.
In Boston.
In Boston, looking for anything like names that sounded like what my grandpa was saying, because the spelling is different from what it sounds like. But we found it eventually. Yeah,
we found it in this public library in the heart of Boston. It was really weird, but we were jumping up and down when we saw the town's name.
Yeah.
Like,
and I saw on the internet you can see the pictures of the old synagogue.
Oh, really?
Obviously it doesn't exist anymore, but,
no, but they burned everything
They burnt it down, yeah, but the synagogue, there's still pictures of it.
But anyway, on my mother's side, they were from Austria and Czechoslovakia and from a different upbringing and very, very sophisticated cooking, like Austrian. Now you can meet my husband if you want to.
I have yes, the whole mishpacha.
Can you say hi?
Hello.
We're doing an event.
Excellent. Who's watching?
I don't know who's watching, Jake.
It's Jewish community everywhere. We're making, This is going to be everyone's Shabbat dinner tomorrow.
Yes.
And you know that it's the Israel's independence celebration now, today.
At 8.
At 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know. Yes. And this is going to be dinner for you.
Today's dinner or tomorrow's dinner?
For the people following along, it will be dinner tomorrow, but for us, it will be today. Okay. So anyway, these are the meatballs. What I was saying was that on my mother's side, much more sophisticated. So fleeing the Holocaust, most of the families died in concentration camps. But my grandmother's sister survived a concentration camp, and my grandmother found her through the Red Cross. She was like almost dying when they found her, and then She healed in the Red Cross for a while. They brought her to Mexico, and she opened the very first Austrian bakery in Mexico City. It was super successful. She made the apple strudels and the linzer and, you know, the chocolate torts, and also, you know, using Mexican ingredients in the very rich, like, Austrian food. But so I grew up with these two very different European cuisines, where my grandmothers were so grateful to have found a home in Mexico, and they blend their food from where they came from with the ingredients they found. It was really a delicious upbringing.
I love that. I love that. Someone wants to know what
We're gonna let this cook.
Ah, gorgeous.
We're gonna let this cook, so you can think a little bit about, you know, what's happening here. He doesn't like my cooking, so he has to eat Cheerios before dinner. So I was gonna say, so you have the tomato sauce that's so spiced up with the chipotles. It has a chicken broth, has the onion and the garlic, but then the meatballs have that mint and garlic. So it's like, you know, it's simple, but it's gonna be super tasty. And then, do you want me to move on to the rice? How are we doing with time? Because I know, Jake, I talked a lot.
We're doing great. We're flexible. I mean, what does everyone else have to do? But I do think before we get into the rice, we should do our first question from our BBYO team.
There.
So I think we are going to throw it to Terry or Teresa.
I love questions. While I get questions, I'll just tell you what I'm throwing in here.
Perfect.
I'm gonna throw, so this is for, Mexico has all sorts of different colors of rice. You have red with tomato, you have green with herbs or poblano chiles, you have yellow with saffron, you have black that's cooked with the broth of the black cooked beans. Now we're gonna make a green rice, and usually I would make it with poblano chiles, but I don't have any. So I'm gonna throw in here cilantro, mint from my garden, an Anaheim chile, a serrano chile, and I'm also gonna throw in a jalapeno chile. I was gonna tell you that you can choose, you know, green, jalapeno, serrano. You can use just one, but why not throw them all?
Yeah.
But I'll have questions.
Hi, Pati. I'm Teresa Sacal from Mexico, representing the Los Chiles chapter. And our first question is, what are some of your recipes where you see the influences of both Mexican and Jewish cultures?
Okay, can you repeat again because I was chopping?
Yes.
Oh.
What are some of your recipes where you see the influences of both Mexican and Jewish cultures?
I love that question. And, you know, many people don't know that there is such a thing as Mexican Jewish cuisine. And they think that, you know, just by throwing in a jalapeno into a matzo ball soup, it makes it Mexican. But Jews have lived in Mexico since the Spanish arrived in Mexico. So it's been 500 years of an intermarriage of Jewish and Mexican ingredients. So some examples that I think are standard in every Ashkenazi Jewish home in Mexico is the gefilte fish a la veracruzana, for example, where the gefilte fish, instead of being just cooked in fish broth, the gefilte fish is cooked in a spiked tomato sauce with pickled pepperoncini peppers and olives and capers. You have matzo ball soup with jalapenos. You have the tzimes with chipotle and apricots. And also, like in Mexico, as you know, there's the different Jewish communities. So, for example, the Middle Eastern Jewish communities have the kippeh that they dip into guacamole. They have the raw kippeh that they top with pico de gallo. I mean, there's just so many. But I think the one that I make the most may be the gefilte fish, right? And the matzo balls. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very intrigued by kibbeh and guacamole.
Oh, it's so good. So you know what they do? So they make the kippeh and then they make the guacamole, but the guacamole, they make it very saucy and wet, as if it were a combination of guacamole and salsa verde. And so you dip the fried quipe into the guacamole, and then you drizzle it with tahini.
Oh my God, sounds delicious.
And it's like a guajillo chile salsa.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Pati.
And I'm adding the cilantro. You guys, Mexicans, they say that the French are frugal. Mexicans are even more. So no need to like pick, oh, I'm going to add a leaf of cilantro. No, you add everything in there because the stems have flavor too. They're so flavorful. So just throw it all in there. Don't be pressure.
I could hear my husband's watching the other room and I could hear him laughing every time you do something.
Hey, I showed you all my family.
I know, I'm going to have to do, Alex, you'll have to come say hi. Well, it's funny because I think that I love the fact that you're kind of be doing puree with the herbs and the kind of conversation around Mexican Jewish food. Here he is. Here's my husband, Alex.
I'm living for this. I'm watching in the bedroom.
Hi, Alex. Hi.
So, I mean, this is one of a perfect example. So like Alex is Iraqi Jewish, but he works in Spanish. So he speaks Spanish. My sister's fiance is from Madrid. So it's just, I love just like kind of the blending of all the cultures.
Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking of the food we're going to eat. We love Iraqi. How much do we love Iraqi? That's so cool. We can mix Iraqi and Mexican.
Let's do it.
For sure.
I want to do the
So nice to meet you.
Yes, kibbeh and guacamole is his first request.
We'll do the fried quipe with guacamole and tahini and guajillo salsa.
Sounds
So
good.
wait. So I'm
Okay,
adding
buenísimo.
what is this? The
What you
tahini?
I said, me parece buenísimo.
Oh my gosh, and he speaks perfect Spanish?
He works in it. He speaks Spanish at work, so it's wild.
You got lucky.
I got lucky, yeah, but I need to learn because like my sister, my brother-in-law is from Madrid and he speaks Spanish. So now the conversation is that when we have kids, they will all speak Spanish and I will be the one left behind.
Of course. That's going to be so much fun for them.
So we are making the rice.
Yes.
Tell us about what everything's in. So you had all 3 chilies, the cilantro, and mint.
Okay, so there is, Mexican cooking is very accessible and you can, you saw, I didn't even measure anything, right? I'm adding the herbs, the chiles, I'm gonna add a little bit of water so it will puree. So I'm not even measuring, right? I'm adding like a piece of onion, but I do measure, and I'm gonna add some lime juice in here too. I do measure once I get the green herbs or chile broth. I measure because you do want to have a ratio of like 1 cup of rice for 2 cups of liquid. So what I will do is that after I puree all of this, I'm going to measure. So for my family, I'm going to make 2 cups of rice. That will feed us. So, and I'm adding a little bit of salt in here and a little bit of pepper. So you come puree with me. Okay. You know what would be really good, and this is the first time that I'm doing this, I'm gonna add just a little bit of the squeezed
I
lemon because your husband inspired.
Love it.
Okay, let me read this. So we're gonna measure. So if anybody else has another question while I read this.
So there are a few. We'll do one more from the Q&A and then we'll send it to our next BBYO team. But what are some good resources for Mexican Jewish food?
Go patijinich.com. I have like, I have like 450 recipes there that are just free for people to print. And I have the gefilte fish a la veracruzana. I have the matzo ball soups. I have like a piloncillo and tomatillo chicken, an apricot and tamarind and chipotle chicken. I have a bunch, but there's a lot of online resources. for Mexican Jewish cooking. I know a lot of people have started blogs. And I once saw one that, and I'm forgetting the name, but it was something like matza jalapeño, which is beautiful. For people living in New York, my friend Fanny Gerson is there, and she makes like the most amazing Mexican paletas and donuts, and she combines her Jewish and Mexican heritage too.
We got delivery from La Yorkina for Passover, and she made brisket stuffed tamales that were amazing.
Oh my! I mean,
That's so smart.
Talk about a brilliant combination. How are those?
Amazing. I mean, we got that, and we got the gefilte fish Veracruz, which was completely different from anything I'd ever had before.
It's so unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to puree these.
Beautiful. Awesome. And then let's see, who is the next BBYO teen? Next one's going to be Sydney. You want to unmute and show yourself, and we will throw it to you as soon as Patty is back.
Brisket tamales. That's so smart. That's kind of really incredible.
Really great. Sydney, your question.
Hi, I'll start off with a little introduction. I'm Sydney. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I'm representing Rocky Mountain region of BBYO. And my question is, how do you find that you would incorporate or merge your Mexican culture into your Jewish values?
I love that question, and I want to show you these gorgeous greens.
Oh, beautiful.
I mean, look at these gorgeous green.
Yeah, that was good.
How stunning is that? And I can't begin to tell you how this smells. I am going to get to your question. But this just smells spicy and grassy and fresh and summery and like outdoorsy. And this is spicy and so liberating too, you know? This is just gorgeous color. So I'm going to bring this here. So your question about how I incorporate my Mexicanness into my Jewish values. There's just so much in common. I'm gonna just throw in some oil in here, because we're gonna do the same thing where Mexicans first fry their rice, and this is like 2 to 3 tablespoons. We first fry our rice a little bit like risotto, and then we add the cooking flavoring liquid, and then we add the broth and it cooks. But I was gonna show you that we need to measure the flavoring raw. Both Mexicans and Jews, I think, are obsessed with food and with life surrounding food and with overfeeding and stuffing the people that we love. Do I do that, Alan?
Yes, 100%.
So I think there's just so much. I think that's why the history of Jews in Mexico is mostly a warm and happy one. You know, I feel like the Jewish people and the Jewish culture have blended together very well with Mexicans, because there's so much appreciation about the work that goes into putting food on the table and the work that comes from the nurturing and the healing and the feeling power of the kitchen. So I think it's the fascination with both histories. The Jewish and the Mexican are so old. I mean, it's centuries and centuries of history of, like, you know, a really rich heritage that both Mexicans and Jews have had for, I'm going to correct me, millennia.
Really long time.
Both of them, right? Like when you think about it, like Canada, the US are younger countries, right? Which is great. It's fascinating, innovative, and you know. But Mexico's history is old, and Jewish history is old. And I think there are two cultures that really, really value and appreciate what we inherit, and we really wanna preserve it and pass it on. So I think when you have both things, it's like not doubles, it's like multiplies, you know? But I wanted to show you something. We measured here almost 2 cups, okay? And we said that we needed a ratio of one cup of rice per 2 cups of liquid. So I'm gonna add here 2 cups of rice. And here I have oil that's been heating.
What type of rice?
Oh, here I'm using jasmine rice. I started using jasmine rice when I moved to the US. I used to use long or extra long white rice before. And then I started using jasmine and I really like it. So I'm gonna add it in here. The oil is hot. So that green puree smells so fresh and so delicious.
Love it. I mean, I think it's also going to be so great with the meatballs.
Yes, you reminded me. I haven't checked on these. Oh, look.
They look gorgeous.
See? So they're cooking beautifully and the sauce is, you know, getting so much thicker and the color is so much more rich. Okay, so I'm adding the rice in here. And what we want to do is we want to fry the rice. So we want to fry the rice in the oil. And we want to look for 3 things. When making Mexican rice, once you nail this down, you will always have a good Mexican rice. You can move anything you want. For the Mexican rice to have grains that are not mealy and that like separate nicely, but that also absorb the flavor, you want the rice, you saw how it's kind of gray and dull in color when it's just there from the bag or the box. You want the rice to, as it fries with the oil, you want it to start becoming a little bit translucent. And so that's one sign. It first starts becoming translucent, and then it becomes achieving this really, really deep, beautiful white, like deep, like pearl white. You don't want the rice to brown, and you don't want it. Can you see the color?
Yeah.
So it went from like blah, boring gray to translucent to a deep white. So that's one sign. The second sign is the sound. Like as it starts frying, it's like louder. See? Like grains of sand in a bucket when you were playing when you were little at the beach. And then the third sign is it's heavier. Like it's harder for you to move it around. It feels like heavier. So when you have most of the grains that have changed in color and it sounds heavier and it looks like it's more difficult to move them around. So here still we can wait for them to change in color a little bit more. Then you add the seasoning broth. And we have 2 cups of rice. We have almost 2 cups of...
Oh, you have 1 cup of rice.
Oh, no, I added 2.
Oh, 2.
I added 2. So I'm gonna add a little bit more water here to make it 2 cups of the seasoning broth with a little water. And then I'm gonna add 2 cups of chicken broth so that I have 2 cups of the seasoning thing. So it doesn't matter if you got half a cup, 1 cup, whatever, you just level it out with water. And then you add broth, but you wanna add the seasoning sauce or puree. Some people will strain these. I'm zero precious. I like the chunks, so I won't do it. And then I'm gonna add the seasoning sauce in here because we want the rice to absorb this seasoning sauce first, and we want it to thicken and change in color and to super bubble. And once that happens, so we'll wait a few minutes. See? You guys, this smells so nice.
So good. There's a question for someone making this for kids, if they want to make it less spicy. Would you just do herbs? Would you do bell pepper? What would be your like kid friendly?
Yeah. So, you know, my friend Tamara, who doesn't eat a lot of spicy, she makes her green rice with just herbs. And she'll use like spinach, watercress. Like she just packs her blender with green things. It doesn't have to be all like Mexican called, you know, like Mexicans, we love spinach. We use watercress. We use scallions, chives. Like you can use whatever you want, you know, to make that green sauce. I do like the heat of jalapeno. If you don't want to make it too spicy, you can just use like a little piece of jalapeno without the seeds.
Yeah.
Or you could use a green chile that is less spicy. But so see how now the rice has mostly absorbed the sauce. You can wait
so
more. But you can also see, look at that beautiful, it went from this fresh green to this really deep, darker olive green. And so, Alan, did you make these rice in college?
Of course. It smells kind of like Indian food.
It does. Is that getting
Steamy?
steamy?
No.
It's good. Okay. So now you can see that the rice almost absorbed everything. And now I'm going to add the remaining 2 cups of liquid, because remember we had 2 cups of rice and we want 4 cups of liquid. And this is fresh chicken broth that I always have in my freezer. But if you didn't want to use chicken broth, you could just add water because this is going to be so tasty, or you could use vegetable broth. And then the last thing here that I'm going to do is let this come to a strong simmer. I'm going to taste for salt, just the liquid. Oh, that's so good. Oh, yum.
That's so good. I can't wait to make this.
This is so good. And you know what's really delightful? And your husband inspired me. The lime and the lime rind and the piece of lime.
Love it.
It's so good. So tell him thank you.
Oh, I will. I mean, he'll be thanking you because I'm gonna make him this dish, and then he'll be the one who truly gets to enjoy it.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna wait for these to come to a simmer. Once it comes to a strong simmer, I'm gonna cover it, reduce it to low, and it cooks 10 minutes and you're done.
Amazing. Someone wants to know what a good dessert would be with this meal.
Oh, like I immediately thought of flan.
Love.
So something like creme caramel, custardy, panna cotta, flan, chocolate. The flan I think goes really well with these because it's just so smooth and creamy and light, and you have like the meatballs and the rice. I mean, if you want to stick with the theme, I just realized that we had some cooked rice in the meatballs to thicken them, and then we had the green rice. I mean, you could have arroz con leche and just make your whole rice.
I mean, I'm very much about that.
Like the cornflake, you know, like the cornflake
Cookies,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. These cornflake
so
cookies that I have on my website in Mexico, these were my husband's grandmother's.
Like the chunks, like the big chunks of cornflakes with chocolate.
Yeah. You know, like frosted.
Yeah.
We have this recipe for frosted flake, really thin cookies that are so easy to make. And those are also nice because they're light and just sweet.
Love it.
Look at how beautiful this is bubbling. The color changed. I'm gonna cover it, reduce to low, and really 10 minutes, and it's ready.
Amazing. I think we are going to throw it to our final BBYO team. We have Yael.
Hi, I'm Yael Schuler. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I'm representing North Texas, Oklahoma region. So obviously Mexican and Jewish cultures are so rich with traditions. There's a million things that these groups of people do. And so something that I was wondering is, what are your favorite traditions, if it's Mexican, Jewish, Mexican, that you'd like to share with your family?
I will take them all. I love them all. I mean, I think at home we do Shabbat, and we love Shabbat. And just now, with this quarantine, I've been trying to make challah every Friday. I didn't used to, but we've always tried to do Shabbat. I think Shabbat is one of my favorite celebrations because it happens every week. So I'll take that. And also because it's spirit night, and I just love Shabbat so very much, and I think I increasingly love it as the time moves on. Like I find there's more and more meaning to it, and it's just like a time of the week that I just want to dig more into and find more about it and research more about it and start doing more to make it even richer. As far as Mexican traditions, I love the Day of the Dead. I think Dia de Muertos is such a beautiful, beautiful and deeply Mexican tradition where there is such a close connection with the concept of death, in such an unusual, happy, celebratory way. It's a big deal in Mexico, and I love celebrating it in Mexico. I think I would say those two for each, the Mexican and the Jewish. But then, of course, when you make Shabbat with guacamole, you can have a mix of both.
Love it. What was that like growing up? Like what was, because I mean, that was something in the last one with Mike Solomonov, we were talking about, like, for example, I did not grow up with Shabbat, and it's something that now I love doing every week. But I'd love to know what that was like growing up in Mexico.
Yeah, so I think when I was very young, you know, like before I was 10 or 11 years old, I think I really jumped between the two very easily. You know, I did Shabbat in my Polish grandparents' home, and then another Shabbat in my Austrian Czech grandparents' home, and then for Sunday, I was very close to my Nana who raised me. My mom worked full time, and Sari, who was from Oaxaca, like practically raised me, and she would take me to church on Sundays, not for religious reasons, but she would go to Mass and I would accompany her. And I love churches too. And mostly I love the food outside of churches on Sundays. So we do Shabbat Friday night with my family and my grandparents. And then Sunday I'd go to church with my Nana and then eat the tamales outside of church and the esquites and the sopes. And so I didn't see any contradiction between the two things. You know, we would do Rosh Hashanah with one family and do the gefilte fish and the blessings with all the family, and then I would celebrate Day of the Dead with my friends, and then I would do posadas for Christmas, and then with my family, like Mexican Jewish families in a way celebrate the Catholic holidays in its Mexican expressions because we eat the food, you know. So when it's Christmas, you're eating tamales, or your Day of the Dead, you're eating the Day of the Dead bread, even if you don't have like a Christmas tree and, you know, in the religious celebration, eating the food. But so I didn't see any contradiction, and it was really one delicious world. But as I started growing up, I started seeing the kind of tears. So to give you an example, when I was like in 5th grade, I was chosen to play Virgin Mary in the school play, and I was thrilled. And my Polish grandmother came, and you know, they survived programs, and my other grandparents survived the Holocaust, and there they are watching their granddaughter play the Virgin Mary, and that did not go well. So, you know, you started noticing, you know, for a while I was feeling like I was living in a limbo a little, like, do I fit here, do I fit there? But then as I've grown up, I realized one can fit everywhere.
I love it. I love it. Such a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Shall we wrap this up with the salad?
Yeah. What? No. I didn't prepare for the salad.
Oh, no worries. Even better. That's great. We have rice and meatballs. That's.
But let me tell you, I salad, but I can tell you that you can find the salad. It's called the Everyday Green Salad. On my website. You can find it on my cookbooks too. On my website, just log in. You can print the recipe. I just to show you how much I make this salad. I ran out of the white distilled vinegar, which is what I used to make it. But I usually make 3 or 4 batches of the vinaigrette. Okay, and you can see how much we eat it, and it's red onion. Let me show you. Is red onion that marinates in this very simple to make vinaigrette. It's cheap white distilled vinegar and the 2 different kinds of oil and garlic and a little mustard and salt and pepper. And then you have the pickled red onion that becomes so ridiculously like crunchy and delicious. And you can use these for the green salad that I'm not showing you how to make, but you're gonna make. And did you hear how crunchy that was?
So good. I mean, I think I love that concept of kind of adding it into the vinaigrette and letting it sit, because it's not only flavoring the vinaigrette, but then you also have pickled onions to add to your salad.
Yeah, but I can show you how everything is looking. Oh my gosh, now I'm feeling terrible. I mean, this is so easy. Just print my recipe in your blender. You throw in the white vinegar, the 2 different kinds of oil, garlic clove, mustard, salt,
we put the link.
Yeah, you have the link?
We put the link to your website for the salad right in the comments.
Awesome. And then you pour it in a jar, and then you slice red onion, and then you just put it in the fridge. Alan, how much do we eat this vinaigrette?
Every day. So good.
It's called the Everyday Green Salad. I mean, we really eat it every day. But I can show you, because I think the meatballs are ready. Let me get a plate, because I think the rice is about to be ready. Hold on. Is it? Let me see.
I think so. Almost.
This rice is ready so fast. Well, it needs a little bit more because you really want for all of the liquid to absorb.
Well, we got a few more questions. We can give it a few. So the first was, what was the name of your grandmother's bakery, the Austrian bakery in Mexico City?
It was just called Café Vienna.
I love that.
And she opened it in Mexico City first, and then she moved it to Acapulco. When Acapulco was like the place to vacation, you know, like in the 60s.
I think that's such a great story, especially because you don't really think of like viennoiserie like in Mexico. So that must have been such an exciting kind of transfer of culture.
It was, and she made her life as a baker, and it was like a beautiful thing because Mexicans, we love pan dulce and we love sweet breads and cakes, and it was like she did really well.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then tell me a bit about like, what has it been like in terms of cooking and your career? Obviously, it's like Emmy nominations, James Beard Awards. What has been kind of your favorite highlights in terms of the stories you've told through food?
I've loved it all, really. I mean, I think that one of my biggest rewards has been to be able to realize how little I know about my home country and my new country, and having this ability because of the show to open doors and meet people and hear their stories. Because I started the show, Paris Mexican Table, wanting to share everything that I knew about Mexico, everything that I knew about Mexican food, and it was just sharing what I knew and wanting to like break myths and preconceptions about what people thought about Mexico and Mexican food and Mexican people, what we look like, what we eat, and it started that way. And I started going to Mexico City and Puebla and the places I knew. But as the show evolved, I started going to places that I hadn't been before. and trying Mexican regional cuisines that I never even tasted because Mexico is gigantic. So it was only when I became, you know, kind of a foreigner and I was living here and I was so nostalgic about it that it allowed me to dig deeper into who I was with this hunger. And then as I've lived here more and more years, it's made me really connect with the Mexican communities abroad and trying to put my pulse on how Mexican food is evolving south and north of the border has been fascinating to me. So I would tell you that I just love learning more and more and more and more. And rather than thinking I want to show more of what I know, is I want to learn more of what I don't know. And that's what I want to share with people, you know, like as I learn the things, like it's so exciting for me to have the opportunity to share. So for example, the latest season of Patty's Mexican Table, which will air in October, we were so lucky because we filmed in Sonora right before COVID hit. We were back here March 15. And Sonora, Jake, is the border state of Arizona. I had never been to it. It's northern Mexico, cowboy, cattle land, cattle country. I had never been there. So it's just fun.
I love that. I mean, I think that's been my favorite part about this, and especially for probably a lot of people watching and listening, to hear that same kind of concept of learning when it comes to Mexican Jewish traditions and the concept of diaspora food and what that means for people who end up in Mexico.
And I think that's one fascinating, I mean, now that you guys are doing this with One Table and with BBYO, it's, you know, as Jews, we're just sprinkled all over the world, right? And it's just incredible to see how we all make use of what as Jews we've inherited, you know, the matzo ball soup, the gefilte fish, the kipe, and how each of these dishes that are sort of the core of our soul become enriched, or how they're shaped with all the different countries. And it's just so, we have to be so grateful, you know, I feel.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that's been my favorite part of everything around Jewish food, is like just the history behind it and how it is more so than just a dish, but about the travel of people.
Yeah. I think the rice is ready. Do you want me to dig?
Let's see, yes. Gorgeous. The colors are beautiful.
So, of course, if I wasn't in a hurry to show you and to eat a little bit of it, I would turn it off, let it sit, and then it would separate and settle, you know, and then you would fluff it with a fork. But I have the rice, and then we have the meatballs that are, of course, super ready at this point. See? I mean, I just love how colorful our food is.
Yes. It's like, I love the red and green combo. It reminds me when I went to Santa Fe for the first time, and the concept of things being Christmas, where they would do like half red chili sauce, half green chili sauce. I think that the color, cooking with color, especially in Mexican cooking, is so amazing.
I love the food of New Mexico. It's just so delicious. I'm gonna cut into this so you guys can see. Am I supposed to like eat?
If you would like, I mean,
no
one's forcing
you. Cooking along?
Some people have. Someone was asking me about the rice, about everything. Like, there are definitely some people cooking along. I think for a lot of people, this is now what's empowering them to make this menu for Shabbat.
You guys, this is so good. And then what you do with this is, if you have some corn tortillas, you can tuck into tacos. If you have some challah, you can dip it into the sauce.
That sounds so
I'm just going to show you what it looks like.
Perfect.
Here. Oh, it's super fluffy. So you can see.
Beautiful.
And it really smells really good. And I'm just going to try it. But let me know if there's another question. I'm so hungry. Oh my God.
Your family's gonna love this. I mean, someone said that their family used to go to Cafe Vienna in the 60s and 70s. They
They used to go?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, Elon Greenwald. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's just been really loving this. Thank you so much, Patty. This has been so amazing, so fun, not only to learn these dishes from you, but to just hear about your story and the traditions you and your family have. That's been absolutely beautiful.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. This has been the highlight of our day, right, Alan?
Yeah.
And make this, it's good. And if you have any questions, please send me an email to hola@patijinich.com or connect with me via Instagram. I'm obsessively there all the time. And anything else I can do, let me know.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patty. Thank you, everyone. A few last minute notes and reminders. Obviously, tomorrow's Shabbat, we're all very excited. One Table is all about feeling good, but we're also looking to not only keep the magic of Shabbat, but keep everyone healthy and safe. So whether that means that you are having a virtual Shabbat or you're just doing it with your roommates, we're here to help you with resources and nourishment, no matter what this new Shabbat landscape looks like, as well as we're going to be hosting a few dinners every week in case you are in need of a virtual Shabbat or a space to celebrate. We're here for you. As well, a huge thank you to BBYO. We're so excited we had the chance to co-host tonight with BBYO teams from around the world. Make sure to peek at BBYO On Demand for daily events and Shabbat experiences from across the globe. Of course, follow One Table at One Table Shabbat. If you make this dish tomorrow, tag Patty, tag One Table. We want to see it all. And have a good night. Shabbat Shalom, Patty, a very early one.
Bye, guys. Thank you for inviting me and my whole family.
Yes. Oh my God. So happy we all got to meet. We'll see you soon.